Hello, and welcome to Technology News. Seoul, South Korea. AP. The G2 and the G-Pad 8.3, the flagship smartphone and tablet from LG Electronics Incorporated, are great mobile devices that have fantastic screens, top-end cameras and ample processing power. But making solid devices is not enough to stand apart from the crowd in the ultra-competitive mobile phone market, which probably pushed LG to make some bold design decisions in a bid to differentiate its G-series from Samsung's Galaxy line and Apple's iPad mini. For the G2, which was released last month in the US, LG moved the power and volume controls to the back of the phone. For the G-Pad, which goes on sale in the US next week, LG added a full HD screen, a rarity in 8-inch tablet computers. While these design choices set the G2 and the G-Pad apart from single-core Temu 2 devices trying to catch up with Samsung and Apple, they might also limit their appeal. Not everyone will be pleased with having to change the basic habits of smartphone operation. They will scratch their heads looking for those buttons just like I did. The full HD screen display makes the G-Pad a couple of $100 more expensive than other 8-inch tablets. It took a couple of days before my index finger ceased pressing the volume key when I intended to press a power key. But after that, I realized having a power button on the back makes it easier to use a big handset with one hand. The G2 has a 5.2-inch screen. LG came up with a double tap gesture to activate the phone. I found it easier and quicker than pressing a home button and then sliding to unlock as with my iPhone 4S. This double tap to start also applies to the G-Pad. LG removed the physical home button on the front for the G2 and the G-Pad. Instead, virtual buttons for back, home and menu actions appear when the screen is activated. I prefer these virtual buttons over physical ones because I could touch them with the same gesture and pressure I applied to the touchscreen. One downside of Samsung's Galaxy devices is that the touchscreen and the 3 buttons for home, back and menu options all need a different level of pressure to be activated. LG's virtual buttons rotated with the screen when I tilted the G2 or the G-Pad to the landscape mode. That made them easy to access when I watched a movie in the landscape mode with the G-Pad. Removing the physical home button also gives the screen more space in the phone. But the design elements that make the G2 and the G-Pad different from rivals stop there. LG has packed the G2 with other features, but many of them were no better than what is already available. For example, a feature called Task Slider allows multitasking by swiping the screen with 3 fingers to hide or reopen an application. But Android users are familiar with an extended press of the home button to bring up a list of applications in use, which is quick and more intuitive. The G2 will be a great choice, but only for people who don't mind relearning how to use a smartphone. In the US, the G2 smartphone is available at $200 with a 2-year contract or $600 without a contract from a carrier. For people who are willing to pay a premium for the 8.3-inch tablet's full HD screen, the G-Pad will also be a decent choice. While the US price is yet to be announced, in South Korea the tablet is offered at 550,000 won, $515. Next. Robot Petting Zoo adapts to its visitors. By John M. Chang. This is not Old MacDonald's petting zoo. There are no chicks to cradle or horses to brush. Instead, the London-based Minimafirm's latest exhibit, Petting Zoo, has visitors playing with robots that look like slinkies suspended from ceiling lights. The exhibition is currently hosted at the Frac Center in Orleans, France. Minimaforms. Theodore Spyropoulos, who both founded Minimaforms and worked on this exhibit with his brother Stephen, said that Petting Zoo plays with the idea of an intelligent environment. The exhibit was an opportunity to try and find ways to animate a space that participates with people, he told ABC News. The exhibit itself consists of 3 separate pets, as Spyropoulos calls them. If an individual comes into their space, they will orient themselves to acknowledge him or her, he said. They make curling movements to bring the individual closer together. Petting Zoo by Minimaforms, Frac Center from Minimaforms on Vimeo. The pets start off as being inherently curious and learn to adapt to a variety of different human behaviors. For example, the pets may be friendly when only one or two people approach them, but become anxious if they see too big of a crowd. If the space is flooded with people, the pet will exhibit more anxious behavior, like shrinking away from the visitors, said Spyropoulos. He also said that the pets also respond with different colors and sounds. Petting Zoo is slated to stay in the Frac Center until February, though the museum is looking to extend its stay. In addition, Menimer Forms has been offered the opportunity to bring their exhibit outside of France, though the pets may behave differently depending on where they are. The pets take on the characteristics of their respective context, said Spyropoulos. They could radically exhibit different personalities depending on the city they're in. We would be very interested to see how they would evolve in New York. Next story. Reusable rocket hits record launch height. By John M. Chang. With all the attention that Tesla Motors gets, it's sometimes easy to forget that Elon Musk has other companies. But a recent update to SpaceX's YouTube channel showed that one of Musk's other big businesses is still hard at work. SpaceX. The new video shows Grasshopper, SpaceX's reusable rocket, setting a height record for that model, soaring 744 meters above the arid landscape of Texas. But it's not the rocket's altitude that should get people excited, said Daniel Irwin, a professor of astronautical engineering at the University of Southern California. It reached less than a mile in height, he told ABC News. But this isn't really an altitude test as much as it is testing the ability to land. The video shows the Grasshopper making a controlled landing to the same spot it launched from. That ability to land is key, since Grasshopper is engineered to be used multiple times. SpaceX's rocket isn't the first piece of reusable space hardware. NASA's Space Shuttle debuted in 1982 and lasted for nearly 3 decades of service, though Irwin is hesitant to call it truly reusable. It had to be torn down and its parts remachined each time, he said. It was almost worse than building something from scratch. NASA's activity may be on hold due to the government shutdown, but that doesn't mean that there won't be American space launches. I think most people think that spaceflight is mostly a government project, but it hasn't been that way for the past decade, said Irwin. A large number of launches don't have any government involvement except for coordination with the FAA. While Grasshopper has performed well on tests, it is not yet ready to be used in SpaceX missions to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. According to SpaceX's Facebook page, last week's launch is also the last scheduled test for Grasshopper for the near future. SpaceX will instead test the F-9R, a different type of reusable space vehicle. Despite SpaceX's decision to stop test launches with Grasshopper, researchers such as Irwin are optimistic about Musk and his company taking on these types of ambitious spacecraft projects. Elon has demonstrated that he and his company can get things done that people said couldn't be done, said Irwin. We're all kind of excited, but of course we'll wait and see how it pans out. Next story. $250 Chromebooks, are they the laptop for you? By Joanna Stern. Shopping for a laptop or portable computer these days feels a lot like shopping for a toothbrush. There's an inexhaustible variety of sizes, colors and shapes. There are Windows tablets that become laptops, and then just your average Windows laptops. There's the iPad and then a massive selection of Android tablets. There's also Apple's family of MacBooks. And then there is a less publicized but increasingly popular category, Chromebooks. While all those other devices can run Google's Chrome browser, Chromebooks, as you can tell from the name, only run Google's popular browser. These laptops, which start for as low as $250, are that simple. They are entirely about using the web. In fact, as soon as you boot up the computers, you get a desktop and one app in the corner that opens up the browser. The idea is that you are living in the browser for most of your day on your laptop or tablet already. Do you really need anything else? That is really the question, though. Here's what you need to know about Chromebooks before weighing if you can live life just in a browser. Why you want a Chromebook? 1. Very affordable. Because Chromebooks run just a browser and don't require higher-end hardware to power more advanced software features, they tend to be extremely affordable, ranging in price from $200 to $500. Check out Amazon.com's list of top computers, and at the top you'll find Samsung's $250 Chromebook in the lead and HP's newest $279 Chromebook 11 at number 4. Many people bought those Windows netbooks a few years back because they were easy on the wallet. Chromebooks have now taken their place as the most inexpensive laptops you can buy. Additionally, Google throws in some perks, increasing the value of the laptops, including 12 vouchers for GoGo's in-flight Wi-Fi for when you are flying, which is close to a $150 value. It also includes 100 gigabytes of Google Drive storage space, which normally costs $60 a year. So, yes, if you are looking to save on that credit card bill and get a very basic computer, a Chromebook is worth some serious consideration. 2. Easy to use and operate. For everybody. That's one of Google's marketing phrases for Chromebooks, and that's because almost everybody knows how to use a web browser. There's really no learning how to use a Chromebook if you know how to use a browser. You're all good. No need to teach mom or dad how to get back to the desktop or find an app. Everything email, Facebook, news websites is just a web address away. While it is mostly a browser, Google has built in some tricks, including pinning your favorite web apps to the bottom left-hand corner. While you can't run Microsoft Word on a Chromebook, Google's suite of apps, including Google Docs and Google Sheets, are easy to pick up and let you open Doc and XLS files. 3. Fast boot times and good battery life. Chromebooks don't have big or slow hard drives inside. Instead, they have small yet fast flash storage. That means the laptops boot and wake from sleep fairly quickly. The new HP Chromebook 11 can be up and running in less 4 seconds when you wake it up from sleep, and they can last a while on a charge. While the HP lasts only about 6 hours on a charge, HP promises 9 hours of juice on its 14-inch version. Why you won't want a Chromebook? 1. No internet, no laptop. A Chromebook is only as good as the Wi-Fi connection it can connect to. While there are some offline applications, such as a calculator, video player, file manager and photo editor, there really isn't much you can do with the laptop without an internet connection. And while Google does offer offline support for Gmail and Google Docs, you have to configure that before you lose your internet connection. If you're only planning on using the laptop at home or at some coffee shops, the Wi-Fi dependence shouldn't be a problem, but if you rely on some apps for offline, this likely isn't the laptop for you. 2. No desktop programs or support. This also isn't the laptop for you if you depend on some specific desktop apps or programs, since you can't run any non-web-based apps. That means no Skype, no iTunes, no Photoshop or programs that you might need for work. 3. Not very powerful. It depends on which Chromebook you chose, but generally the lower-end laptops are not as fast or powerful as others. While they can surely manage a load of checking email, Twitter or Facebook and some other tabs, don't expect much more. For instance, when using the HP Chromebook 11 to write this article with 10 tabs open, it became sluggish. It actually took time for Google Docs to catch up with my typing of much of this article. Google's Pixel Chromebook has a much more powerful processor inside and thus doesn't have the same performance issues, but that laptop also costs north of $1,000. Chromebooks with Intel Core processors are your best bet when it comes to shopping for better performance. Bottom line. Chromebooks are about trade-offs. For $250 to $280 you get a very affordable machine with some nice hardware features, but you sacrifice power and more advanced capabilities. That's why Chromebooks can make great secondary machines for surfing the web on the couch or handing off to the kids when you're busy on your own laptop. However, many would say that's exactly what a tablet does well. Still, if you are looking for an affordable laptop to do some basic web surfing, one of Google's laptops will do the trick. If you're looking for more, there are a lot of other devices to choose from, and the good news is that they all run Google's Chrome. Of course, none of them will keep your teeth clean. Next story. Amazon partners with HTC to make smartphones. Reuters. Amazon.com Inc. is developing smartphones with HTC Corporation, putting it in a position to compete with Apple Inc. and Google Inc., the Financial Times reported. One device is already in an advanced stage of development, the paper reported, citing a source. However, another source said Amazon may decide not to release it, according to the paper. The device is likely to be launched in 2014 if Amazon decides to proceed with the project, the newspaper said. Amazon and HTC could not be immediately reached for comment. Speculation that Amazon will launch its own mobile devices has been around for years. In 2011, Citigroup said that Amazon would launch a smartphone in 2012 through a partnership with contract cell phone maker Foxconn International. If Amazon turns to Asia to launch a smartphone, it will be following the example of Google, which tied up with Taiwan's Asus and South Korea's LG Electronics for its Nexus devices. Next story. Need motivation? There's an app or gadget for that. By Ann Flaherty. Associated Press. Washington. AP. Welcome to the Measured Life. When Tim Davis of Beaver, Pennsylvania, tipped the scales at 318 pounds 2 years ago, he bought a Fitbit gadget to track his physical activity and the Lose It app on his phone to track calories. He bought a Wi-Fi-enabled scale that published his daily weight on his Twitter feed and turned to other apps to track his pulse, blood pressure, daily moods and medications. At one point, Davis said he was using 15 different apps and gadgets, which he said helped him drop 64 pounds by that following year. A growing category of devices and software applications promises to measure the mundane details of our daily lives: calories burned, diaper changes, how much and how well we sleep, caffeine intake, kids' studying habits, household chores, even whether a baby is nursing more frequently on mom's left breast versus her right. The apps have become increasingly sophisticated, tapping into a niche market of everyday consumers and aspiring amateur scientists to conduct many experiments on themselves. It's the second-by-second, minute-by-minute changes that really did it, said Davis, 39. If you're the type of person who likes gadgets and devices and to collect metrics, you're also the kind of person who does not like gaps in data. These self-tracking consumers don't necessarily have high-tech backgrounds, but they like pie charts and graphs. They want their achievements highlighted in green, their failures coded red. They also want to compete against themselves and others, and to create digital scrapbooks that can be referenced years from now. I don't know if I'd use the word obsessed, said Ernesto Ramirez, a self-tracking devotee who helped to organize a two-day conference on the subject last week in San Francisco. Speakers at past Quantified Self conferences have included a man who developed his own app to see if he could walk every street in Manhattan and a dad who used trackers on his kids to monitor chores. I think there's an overall trend toward curiosity and proving knowledge of oneself in the world, Ramirez added. A pediatrician in Kansas City, Mo. Natasha Buggard, said apps that track newborn feedings and sleep patterns have become wildly popular among her patients, and she now encourages parents to send her the data before their appointments. In the first few weeks, parents are so tired. It's really hard for them to give you objective data, Buggard said. Public health advocates and researchers say tracking technology could be used to encourage people to use less gasoline, conserve water or drive slower by giving them real-time feedback on their daily habits. It also could expose causes of medical conditions that baffle doctors. HopperLab, based in Redwood, California, is one nonprofit looking to harness technology to improve health. It has developed a $30 movement tracking device for kids called a ZamZ, and a website that rewards activity with online points and badges. HopperLab has developed video games for young cancer patients that lets them pretend to blast cancer cells. Researchers there say their studies have shown that the game improved patients' moods and encouraged them to stick with treatment. Ramirez said he thinks the next step will be embedding sensors in nearly everything a person encounters throughout the day and linking that information together. Think of a car that won't start if you've consumed too much alcohol, or a light bulb that changes colors when it's time to go to bed. Industry watchers say these kinds of data-driven apps are finding their place in a market that has struggled to profit from advertising. Raj Agarwal, CEO of Localytics, a Boston-based analytics firm, says mobile games are still by far the most popular among consumers, but their fan base can be fickle. If a data logging app is useful enough, it can convince consumers that they should pay for upgraded subscriptions or premium services that earn the developers money. One mobile app called Gympact has found a novel way of making money off its consumers' data. The app lets people bet against one another as to whether they will go to the gym. The non-exercisers have to pay the exercisers, with Gympact taking a cut. But what becomes of all this data? In theory, most apps let you delete your information. But programs such as the Fitbit reserve the right to keep and analyze your information, and possibly pass along the data to third parties to make sure the program works as promised. What would happen if these tech companies decide to package and sell all that data? Could a person ever be denied a job or life insurance, for example, if their mobile app showed they tried but never quit smoking? Poorly encrypted data or lax privacy controls could become a problem, too. In 2011, some Fitbit users were surprised to see their sexual activity logs pop up in Google searches. That's something Fitbit's privacy settings allowed at the time unless a person knew to opt out. Fitbit has since modified its policy to keep hidden more sensitive data unless someone configures his or her account specifically to share it. As for Davis, he said his biggest mistake was letting his Fitbit gadget lose its charge last year. Without the continual feedback, and perhaps a mobile app to remind him, Davis' motivation waned and his weight climbed to 292 pounds. But Davis insists he won't stay that way for long. He has persuaded his family members and coworkers to wear self-measuring devices, sparking a friendly rivalry. "Keep an eye on me," he said of the months ahead. "I think you'll see a difference." This is the end of Technology News Stories. Thank you for listening.